Commit to Wealth Nation, welcome to the Commit to Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Juan Vargas. Today on the show, we have Scott Meyers. Scott began his real estate investing career back in 1993, having acquired over 400 rental units, including single-family homes and apartments, industrial buildings, commercial office buildings, and warehouses, among other commercial real estate assets. Since then, his main focus has shifted to self-storage investing, and he now owns over 7,000 units, and which is over 1 million square feet of space in self-storage units, and in the process has become the nation's leading expert in the biz. Scott Meyers, welcome to the show.
Hey, Juan, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to make this happen and put this together. So, let's go ahead and get things going. And, tell us, first of all, where you are located. And, tell us a little bit about your background. That's kind of how we start all the shows. So tell us about your background and how, we'll fast forward to today, from there.
Sure. So I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. Fishers, Indiana is a suburb of Indianapolis. And I grew up in Michigan, went to the University of, and then took a job with a Fortune 500 company. That's what brought me down to Indianapolis. And then, back in 1993, started investing in single-family homes and then apartments, and then got into office buildings and industrial, and then saw the light when I bought my first self-storage facility. Not before we had a little financial meltdown first. The tenant toilet business wasn't doing so well for us, and the recession I went through in 1999 and thereafter. And so that's about the time when I began looking into self-storage and building up a small empire of storage facilities, and then ultimately selling off all my homes and apartments. And so since then, we ramped things up and have bought multiple facilities throughout the country. And we develop facilities. We convert buildings, warehouses, industrial buildings into self-storage. And along the way, we also built an education company where I go out and I speak at different real estate investment groups. I speak for the self-storage trade shows and associations nationwide. And we provide home study systems and software and consulting services. And we also raise capital. We syndicate and do private placement memorandums and do joint ventures with our students and other folks on the private equity side. And so, we're all things self-storage, and that's all we do around here.
I like that. So you offer an educational platform. You're able to partner with your students, and is able to help both of you grow. Both as you, to find more investment opportunities, but at the same time for your students, for them to piggyback on somebody else's track record and experience. So that is good. We will talk about that here towards the end of the show as well. I would like to ask you a little bit more about that. So let's kind of get into it. My primary focus here on the show is multifamily, is apartments, right? But here we're going to talk about self-storage. So tell us, why self-storage? You used to have apartments. Why did you switch over to eventually into self-storage? What's so good about it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, everybody says they love rental real estate if it weren't for tenants, but it's kind of hard to rent things out if you don't have tenants, right? So ultimately that was the reason. When we went through our financial challenges, again, it was on the tail end of the recession out of 1999. There were other things that worked there. That was when the Community Reinvestment Act was put into place by the sitting president at the time, thereby basically anybody that could fog a mirror was able to get a loan. Mm-hmm. And so our tenants were doing just that. They were leaving our apartments and our single family rental homes, and they were buying houses because this is the greatest time in our country's history that anybody could get into a home. And those loans were backed by the federal government. So our tenants were leaving in droves, and we had big, massive shortfalls in cash flow at that time. But really what I looked at is not only that, we made that shift and we started selling a lot of our single family homes, and we got smarter at the apartment side of the business and started selling some of those off as well. But through all that, we realized as you begin to tighten your belt, I looked at the eviction laws and the way that they are written. They're not there to protect the investors, the landlords by any stretch. They're there to protect the tenants. And so when somebody can stop paying you, steal from you 10 months into a 12-month lease and destroy your property, and you go to court and they call it non-payment of rent and excessive wear and tear, Well, no, when they steal from you and they take a claw hammer to the drywall on their way out the door because they're mad at you for evicting them,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, that's, where I
Mhm.
grew up and pretty much everywhere in the world and really in this country, their business. If you don't pay somebody, that's stealing. But
Right.
for whatever reason, in habitation or real estate, it's overlooked. And I
Mhm.
had the best attorneys and collection agents in the city, and virtually got nothing ever out of our tenants that would destroy our properties and steal from us. And so, at that point, I realized that even the best cook in the world can't fix a broken recipe. Didn't want to get out of real estate. I
Mhm.
love real estate for all the reasons we all love real estate, right? It appreciates. You can depreciate it. This
Mhm.
is, you can borrow money to buy this investment. You can't borrow money, unless it's from family to go buy gold or stocks or bonds. You can, borrow money from the banks to buy it. And then you put a tenant in there and they pay down your basis, your real estate. I mean, there is no better investment out there, bar none. It was the tenants and toilets. So, what do I do? If I don't like that, well, I can go buy parking lots or parking garages or self-storage. So there's no way to create value in parking lots or parking garages. In self-storage, there's multiple ways of being able to not only raise rents, but to add in different profit centers, from truck rental and locks, boxes, and moving supplies, and a host of other ways to increase value, like apartments, but even more opportunities. But this time, I didn't have evictions that I had to deal with, because we have the protection of lien laws, which in self-storage means that if they don't pay, I put a lock on their units. They can't get in until they pay us their back rent and late fees. And then if they don't do that, after 90 days, we sell their stuff off and I get my money back. So when you look at the business model, I mean, there's a whole lot of other reasons why I love self-storage after I got into it, but that right there alone was it. And then when they leave, or after we would sell a unit off, I don't have a turn anymore. We take a broom or a blower, blow it out, and move in the next person waiting in line. There's no carpet in place. There's no drywall.
Yeah.
There's no, nothing else.
Mhm.
So, that combined with, again, many other reasons, we made the switch and sold off all our houses. And we've been in self-storage, and, never say never. I can't say that I'll never go back to apartments and houses, but boy, oh boy, it would be tough for me to go back to that world now.
Yeah, yeah. After being spoiled here without having to deal with the actual tenants, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's good. Can you tell us a little bit about the numbers? And by numbers I mean, the supply and demand.
Yeah.
Tell us like the number of people that actually, if you have that on top of your mind, or on top of your
Mhm.
head, the number of people that actually rent and use self storage like throughout the nation.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so the industry standard numbers are, we find that roughly 1 in 10 households rents one or more self-storage units in this country. So self-storage is 10% market penetration, if you will, of all the households, and that's apartments and houses. But in sheer number of units, there's businesses and a number of other uses for self-storage. Use it, contractors use it, individuals. There's overflow from retail operations that rent up a number of units and square footage. So there's a number of folks and clients that we have that rent self-storage units from us. Probably the better indicator, or the better metrics that we use for not only investing but in the industry, is a supply index. And we measure our market. Juan, it's really in a downtown area. Downtown Houston would be 1 mile square radius.
Hmm.
That's what we're looking at in terms of that's as far as people will drive to go to a self-storage unit, and in a compact metropolitan statistical
Hmm.
area.
Gotcha.
You get it outside of that, a little more in the suburbs, it's 3 miles. And you begin to get a little more rural, it's 5 miles, meaning that's our trade area, that's our market. So regardless whether it's a 1, 3, or 5 mile radius, we're always looking at the supply index, which means what is the amount of square footage of self-storage in this 3 mile radius compared to the population. Divide the population by the square footage, and equilibrium in our industry is considered right around 7 square feet of self-storage per person in that trade area. So if we find a building that we're going to convert, or a piece of ground that we want to develop a facility on, we run the numbers, in a 3 mile radius, what's the amount of square footage of self-storage our competitors already in the market. And then we go to the demographic information from Esri or a number of other sources and divide that population into the square footage. 9, 10 square feet per person, maybe a little oversupplied. It may not work. We're at 4 square foot, 3 square foot per person. Yeah, we got something. Now we know that we can move forward, and we get to that place where we can lease this thing up to 85% to 90%, which is equilibrium or stabilization of a facility, and move on from there. It's not a simple business, but it's a very predictable business model with these metrics that we can go into using of course, we have feasibility study. Consultants will come in behind us and do all this math as well, and go and survey the market. But we can hit those numbers, pretty closely, and we know how a facility is going to perform. And even from that, when we develop it from the ground up, we know how long it's going to take it to lease up to 30%, 40% to equilibrium to 90% with a fair amount of accuracy, usually within a few weeks.
Gotcha. So you mentioned markets, that's kind of what we're talking about here. So before we jumped on the call, you also said that you live in Indianapolis. Is that correct? But you invest like nationally. So which markets are you finding to be the most profitable for you, throughout the nation? What do you look for in a market?
Yeah. So we built a sizable portfolio here in Indianapolis, and we have a couple other projects we're embarking on right now. But as I mentioned, yes, we have an education business as well. And so we teach people about business, and we do joint ventures with other developers and syndicators. And so I'll go wherever there's a deal. We can look at, any market, any deal is just as close as my local airport. So to paint, if we're talking about, what I'm assuming your question is, what markets, what broad MSA, like, is it Houston? Right. Is it Miami? Is it Kansas City? Where am I going? Where's the gold? Well, again, we know this is such a predictable business model. It doesn't matter. It's out my back door. I can go just about anywhere in Indianapolis and continue to poke around and find a building or a site to build, or an existing facility that is in an area that is undersupplied. We run the numbers, look at how much it's going to cost to develop that facility, and put one there, or develop or convert one there. So we do it in our backyard. We do it all over the country. The best areas are what we find just have a couple of different dynamics working with them. And that means that rental rates are high for self-storage and for rents. We know what our costs of development are. So if we can get into that land inexpensively, or find that old building that we can buy on the cheap for pennies on the dollar to convert it, we know we're going to be $12, $13 a square foot to build it out inside walls and doors. And then we reverse engineer and back into the rental rates in that market. If it's a market that has high rental rates, then we know we've got something. So the good news is, me personally, I'm not looking for a lot of deals, or some areas, and time spent doing that. But I'm fortunate enough that most of the deals that we're working on right now are brought to us by our students and our joint venture partners that are bringing deals to us that they've already vetted, because we've taught them how to go out and do just what I explained.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the things that we also, in multifamily or any other asset class, I guess we can say single family. Let's just say single family. In single family, things are going well. It's good. But the market crashes, then people have to move out, or things can happen, right? The default on their mortgages. So what happens with self-storage if there's a market correction?
Yeah, again, another one of the benefits of self-storage, we've continued to just move up and to the right. When the economy's going well, when things are going well, people buy more stuff. And then they run out of the room in their house, in their garage, or their basement, and so they put their extra stuff in storage. The economy's going well, people are buying boats, they're buying RVs. Homeowners associations won't allow them parked in the yards, or on the street, or anything along those lines. It creates a demand for storage. But then what happens, and so we continue to move along, occupancy is high. Then comes a recession or a correction in the economy. Well, at that point, then there's trauma and transition, and we're in the trauma and transition business. When there's trauma and transition, people are downsizing. Businesses are downsizing. So businesses will begin subleasing their space and putting inventory or their extra furniture and things in storage until the economy turns around again, or until the business turns around again. Individuals, they may, one income earner loses a job and they have to move into an apartment from a house. They're downsizing, or they have to move back in with their parents, or they have to move in with friends. They downsize, and there's a need for storage. Or when they have a move in general, then people are going to store things for several months at a time, if not years. So at the same time, what we have, the dynamic is that the banks, as you know, they shut off the faucet for development funding, all across the plane, but also for self-storage. Banks don't like to do speculative deals. They don't like to do development deals during a recession where you take a piece of dirt and you say you're going to put an income stream on it. At this point, they're holding back, and they want to look at deals that have historical cash flows on it. Show me this apartment complex that has, for the past 7 years, give me the P&L for that so I can, predict what's going to happen even now during a downturn. Same for self-storage. So they don't like those development deals. So what we have during a correction or a recession is we have a huge spike in demand for self-storage. Houses, apartments, the values tank at the same time because everybody's giving up and giving out, and they're moving in with each other. We also have then the banks that don't have development financing, and we have this huge demand for it. Well, that's a perfect storm for storage. We lease all units up, we raise rents, and then we pay cash for any development and adding any additional buildings onto our site until the recession is then corrected, subsides, the banks open up the financing again, and then we see more building to keep up with the backlog of demand that we have. And that's what we've seen over the past several years. I'm sure as you're driving around in the markets looking at your projects, you see a lot of development of self-storage facilities, probably real close by, because apartment dwellers obviously are very big users of self-storage as well. So I never say that I welcome a recession or a correction in our economy, because that brings a whole lot of bad things for a whole lot of folks. But in our industry, we are licking our chops heading into this next one, which is going to begin, or already has begun, depending on who you talk to. Because we are going to be poised to take advantage of it with our equity investors and our lending partners.
Yeah, so you're well positioned to take advantage of it, like you said. So you're good. Yeah. So talk about the physical characteristics that you look for when determining if a self-storage facility is the right one for you.
Yeah. So I'll touch on this in two parts. There's the physical characteristics and then the market characteristics. So the first, physical, if it's an existing facility, I like distressed real estate. I'm a junker, we bought junker houses, we bought junker apartment complexes, and same thing for self-storage. I want distressed owners, and I want a distressed property that hasn't been taken care of. And everybody out there knows what distressed real estate looks like, right? Mm-hmm. Hasn't been taken care of. There's weeds, it's a mess. There's no signs out front. There's no marketing happening. And when you walk in, there's a guy behind the counter with a wife beater tank top on, chomping on a cigar. That's perfect. I love that. That's what we're after. Mm-hmm. So just deferred maintenance. Weeds. I mean, we can go on and on. The list is exactly the same. You pick the type of real estate. It's just something that's stressed. So then when we dig into the numbers, we can tell that, if the rates, and many times we can go online, we can find out what the competitors are charging, and we'll see what their rates are. And if they're below, we got an opportunity. If they're selling, if they don't have any ancillary profit centers, they're not selling locks, boxes, and moving supplies. They don't have moving trucks. They're not doing propane or, anything else to generate additional revenue. They're not selling renter's insurance. Then we know we have the ability to boost the NOI. If their occupancy is low, obviously, that's another one. So, just all those telltale signs of ways that, we value self-storage the same as multifamily. It's NOI based and a cap rate. So how do we drive income? How do we reduce expenses at this site? Can we employ technology to replace that guy behind the counter and, put a kiosk in place for people to rent, put a responsive website online with a mobile application so they can rent units online? Those are the types of things that we look at from a true physical aspect and technology. Then beyond that, if he's struggling at 50% occupancy, well, is it really the guy behind the counter, and or perhaps the prices, or is it the market? And if we look at our competitors in that 3-mile radius, if they're all at 85, 90%, then we know it's the facility. If everybody else is at 55, 60% occupancy, well, when we model this out, we can't really predict or project that we're going to get this thing up to 85% if the market is somehow oversupplied. If there's an issue with the market, it's that. So, a deal isn't always distressed and have those other aspects on the facility. I mean, we could fix those things up and spend a lot of money, but if it's in an oversupplied market and there isn't the demand, well, then, we may have somewhat wasted that money if we can't get the occupancy up and therefore get the NOI up. So they go hand in hand, as you know. It's no different. We've got to have a market there for it. And then, the distressed piece that we have to be able to create value in. That's all we do. We're only value-add investors.
Gotcha. So how are you finding these deals? you know, the typical kind of deal that you're looking for, obviously, I mean, what from what it sounds like, it's not like an institutional type or quality type of asset. It's more of a mom and pop, you know, maybe has owned it for 20, 30 years. So how are you finding these deals?
Well, that's a secret, Juan. We're on a podcast. I can't tell
You can't share that,
you.
huh?
Again, no different. I mean, it's the techniques that we've been employing that I'm sure you and your folks are doing as well. Starts with mailers. You know, we buy mailing lists of the owners. We hand stamped, hand addressed, send them out. We work with a number of brokers who know who we are, and we tell them what we're looking for. We're looking for the junk. You know, we're looking for the stuff that most of the people on their list, you know, that of active buyers doesn't want. Those are the types of things that we're looking for. We look at business brokerage websites because many people look at self-storage as a business when they get ready to sell it. The mom and pops do as well. So that's the third area. And you know, there's 11 that we look at and ways to find self-storage facilities, but those are the main three. And if you work those over and over again and drive your market, you know, even facilities that are for sale, we found that weren't, you know, we couldn't find them for sale on the internet. You know, we drive around to see signs for them, or buildings to convert, or land to buy. Many times just doesn't show up when you're sitting behind the desk doing your you know, your search from your desk. So you got to go out and drive the market, create relationships, make friends at the self-storage association, you know, your statewide meetings. And, you know, when those folks are ready to sell, let them know that let them know before they're ready to sell that you're interested, should they ever decide to sell, and that you're actively buying, and just, you know, promoting yourself. You know, it needs to be part of your brand that we're building a business, and we're always looking to buy self-storage facilities or apartments or houses. We don't have magnets on the side of my car that says I buy self-storage facilities like some of the single family folks do, or car wraps or anything like that. But we do shout it out pretty loud that we are in the business of buying deals and partnering with people that have them.
Gotcha. So as far as size, you know, what's the ideal size for you? You know, for these mom and pop, you know, type owners, you know, what's the ideal size that you're looking at?
Yeah, well, the bigger the better. But ideally, probably a minimum is really 150 units, because anything below that in storage, it's tough to get a property manager, let alone a property manager on site. It just doesn't generate enough revenue. I mean, you know, apartments, 5% property management, you know, that fee that you underwrite and add that in for property management. You know, if you can hire a property management company, you can afford to put somebody behind the desk to run it. And storage, same thing. However, it just may not work in these smaller facilities, and we don't want to just hire a retired person with a cell phone on their hip, or geez, you know, heaven forbid, you know, we have to manage it ourselves. The last thing that we want to do. So, not that there's anything wrong. I know there's people that do that, but for the most part, they're using technology at that point. You know, if it's below 150 units or 100 units, you know, they're using a kiosk, and probably it's just unmanned facility. And that's fine. That's just not our business model. So 150 units and above is really what we're looking for, so that we can have somebody at least there part-time in a property management company that we can roll up to, you know, with the rest of our facilities and the rest of our management structure.
So speaking of the property management team, how many are actually required? Or let's say you have a 200 unit self-storage facility. So how many staff members are actually required to oversee that project?
Yeah, you know, rule of thumb has been, and again, obviously, any answer or every question you ask me, I can answer with, well, it depends, and you know, same for this. But rule of thumb is usually 10 hours a week for every 100 units that you have. So you may not get up to you know, a full-time person until you're at about 400 units or so. Again, that being said, you know, all things being equal, but, you know, if you're in a lease-up phase, if you are in a turnaround project or development project, you still need somebody there, you know, to capture that traffic that you're driving to it, and be there. And also, if you are going to be in the business of offering those revenue streams like U-Haul, truck rental and retail and what have you, you know, U-Haul will require somebody to be in that office 30 hours or more per week. So we always have to, you know, weigh the different options as to how many hours to put somebody in. But even it doesn't mean that, you know, 250 units is 25 hours a week, and maybe 200 units or that 150 unit facility still needs somebody there 25 hours a week to catch traffic, to catch rent, and do the things that needs to be done. So, you know, again, we look very closely at that as to how much can be handled by a kiosk and technology versus putting a person on site all the time.
Gotcha. So what was that rule of thumb again? You said 10 hours a week for every, how many?
10 hours a week for every units has been, one of the benchmarks that has been around for quite a while. And again, it's really site specific, facility specific.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about the financing that you can get, or that's available for self storage. What kind of financing can you get on these?
Yeah. Well, the savings and loans, the community banks, the small, the 1 to 5 to 10 branch banks, in local areas, they love self-storage. It has the lowest loan default rate of all the commercial asset classes. And so, the banks that actually hold on to their portfolio, their loans, instead of selling them off, self-storage is their number one choice. Because they're going to hold on to it because it makes money and has the lowest loan default rate of all the asset classes. So they're throwing money at us. It's fairly easy to get a self-storage loan as long as you pass underwriting and you're not overpaying for it. It's pretty simple. They truly they want these. Outside of that, when we look at a higher loan to cost, when building or developing or even on the acquisition side, the SBA, their 7A program and the 504 program goes up to 85% LTV for self-storage. They don't do it for other asset classes, but for the same reason, they're backing these loans. And so self-storage, they know, has the lowest loan default rate. And so they'll go up to 85% LTV. So that's on the financing side. We're using those folks companies too. We're seeing 4% interest rates at the time of this recording, 4% interest rates from insurance companies that are holding on to them in their funds, and they'll hold on to them and they'll run that out for a 25 or 30-year amortization and hold on to those the entire time because again, it's a pretty proven asset for them. So that, those are the main ones. We don't go outside of that very often, and we'll partner up. Then we layer on top of that private equity from our private equity partners and funds and groups of investors, because they too see the profits and the revenue in the self-storage side of the house, and we have no problem attracting money.
Gotcha. No, it sounds like it's very favorable lending environment for the self-storage space for sure.
If you got a deal and it truly is a deal and you can't get it funded and it's a self-storage facility, you're not trying very hard.
Yeah, I see that. I just wrote it down. Like you can get up to 85% in some cases, 4% interest rate from the insurance companies. I mean, you're still getting the 25 to 30-year amortization as well. I mean, you name it. So what about the terms? Are these like 10 to 12-year terms?
So the community banks and savings and loans, sometimes those folks will reset in 5 years. Others will carry it out. You pay a quarter to 3/4, up to 3/4% increase in rate, and they'll fully amortize it and run it out 25 years. So again, it just depends on the lending institution and what they're comfortable with and what their appetite is for locking in at a rate fixed versus reset. But most of what we're seeing out there, 75, 80% LTV with a 5-year reset. Some will go 10, but it's usually it's all or nothing. It's usually a 5-year reset, or they'll amortize it all the way out 25 years.
Okay, so like a 5-year reset. Okay, gotcha. So let's kind of talk about the landlord and tenant laws, because we obviously don't have anybody living at the properties.
Right.
But you still have tenants, or you have tenants that you have to deal with in a way because they have their belongings in the unit. So let's talk about that.
Yep. Well, that again is probably the number one reason why I've gone into self-storage and gotten out of the rest is that the eviction laws we know protect the tenants, but in self-storage we have the protection of lien laws. So under the lien laws, and every state has their own set of lien laws, but they're written by the same attorneys, basically nationwide. So they're all roughly the same. It's a 90-day process. So when somebody stops paying you on typically most facilities do in the first, obviously, grace period up till the 5th or 6th or so, and then on about the 6th of the month, we put another lock on their unit, lock them out. It's called what's an overlock situation. And we also take any gate codes or passes that they have to get into a facility that's fenced and gated with a gate code, that comes out as well. So they can't get inside, and even if they could tailgated somebody in or hop the fence, they can't get into their unit because we got this big red round disc lock on it. So they have to pay their background late fees to get into their unit, because we have it's called self-storage for a reason, and we don't take any liability because we don't take any possession or ownership. We can't get into their unit. When we lease it, they put their lock on it, and so we take no liability. So as soon as we put that lock on it, we've created a situation where they're overlocked. and we wait until they pay up in full. And if they don't, after 90 days, we send them certified letters. We send them a notice that we're going to auction, give them the date and time. And if they still don't pay, then yeah, we get to sell their units off. So, like the TV shows that you and many folks have seen out there, the folks come out, they see our advertisement, or they've been to our auctions, they know, and we let them know in an email when another one's coming up. Cut the client's lock off, take our lock off, open the door, they get to look inside. They can't go inside because it's self-storage. There's a light there. And now they bid on it, and the highest bidder wins. They put their lock on it. We've created a new client because now they have to rent it from us until they clean it out, and they have to give us a deposit because they can't just cherry pick and leave us junk. They have to take the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel, and sweep it out before we give them their deposit back. And then at that point, I've got a unit that is ready to rent again immediately. So either I'm renting it to them, or when they move out, I've got somebody else that I'm going to backfill and I can put in immediately. So nothing to paint, nothing to clean. I don't have to chase rent down because I get paid at the auction. I get paid my back rent, my late fees, and I move in the next person waiting in line. So
very interesting.
There's no gap. There's no, I mean, in the apartments, which we were in at the end, a turn would cost us in lost rent and replacing carpet or cleaning and painting everything. We were in that about that $1,200 to $1,300 range, all in loss on each unit when it turned. We have very little, if any, loss at all now because we get all our money back and sell it, at least most of it. And then, we've got a few days or so because our marketing is always running on the website. We move in the next person and that's it. We take a $19 non-refundable admin from them that covers any gap in the meantime. And the revenue is just solid. It's just rock solid. We don't have dips anymore. When I had single family houses, you'd have one tenant leave, you lost 100% of your rent on that unit, and that would wipe out the profit for almost a year on that one.
Yes.
We got 400 units. We lose one tenant, that's not even a dip in occupancy or in the cash flow. So it's a very steady and just low risk. Again, that's the reason why the business model, the way it works, it's a very low risk investment.
Yeah. So how many times have you actually had to evict somebody? I'm sure it's been multiple times, but throughout the years. But how many times have you actually held some sort of an auction?
Again, it depends on the facility, and some markets are better theirs just because of the demographic, but 2 to 3 auctions a year, and then we'll do a few at a time. Many times we'll wait until we have a handful because otherwise nobody comes out if there's only 2 or 3 units. But most of the time, the lien process takes care of it. We send the letters out, give them public notice. It's not like somebody who gets evicted, they get away with it. You get evicted, woohoo, I get out 2 months free rent. I still got all my stuff. I'll go to the next nice new clean place. I just have to move. In self-storage, you threaten to sell their stuff off, they lose everything. They lose it all, so they come down and they'll pay. There's a lot more to lose there. So most of the times they will. Very rarely do the units go to auction, but those that don't pay, they've fallen off the cliff. We have no idea where they are. Then we auction the units off. But again, we don't hold it once a month. We hold it every 2, 3, sometimes every 6 months. Some of our facilities we wait till 9 months. We just don't have, they pay, and because of the nature of it, that is enough of a punishment that they'll pay. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So let's talk about some of the changes that you've seen throughout the years in the self-storage space. Like some of the technology that's been implemented here lately. Some of the shift that has been going on. What have you seen?
Yeah, when I first got into the business, 2005 is when the kiosks were coming onto the scene, and they were brand new, and so it allowed somebody to walk up just like a Redbox rental, except further. It takes the client's picture, takes their fingerprint on a scanner, obviously accept all forms of payment, cash, check, credit card, gives them a gate code and a lock, and they can complete the entire transaction, sign on the screen, and prints out a receipt for them, all there throughout the kiosk. And then they gives them their own gate code. They go into the facility and up to that unit, and they can move in. So that could, in some cases, replace a manager having to be at that site, or at least reduce the amount of hours that we have somebody sitting there twiddling their thumbs when we can have a kiosk run them. Same thing on the website side. Now we've gone through the years, a responsive website that responds to mobile, but then also accepts payments and the ability to complete the transaction. The only thing different than coming in or with a kiosk is that we can't give them a paper receipt. We can't sell them a lock on a mobile phone. But for reducing our highest line item expense, which is labor or payroll, it is worthwhile to be able to, give up some of those. But now we're finding that over 70% of our clients are coming onto the facility and becoming clients by way of the mobile phone. I mean, we could be,
Okay.
the office could be open with the neon sign on and somebody sitting in the desk, and they will drive up into the facility and they'll complete the entire transaction on their phone, and then they'll go into the gate and bypass the office altogether. Kind of like, Starbucks in your app. You don't have to talk to the barista if you don't want to. You just order it on your mobile app and you come pick it up.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy how
those
things
are some of the, but it's fantastic. And,
yeah.
Storage is such a low labor, non-labor intensive type transaction anyway. It's not like they're coming into a salesperson, the property manager on site and asking about the school system and the noise and, let me go see it. And, it's a 10 by 10 metal box on a concrete slab. That's it.
That's why I like it too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about the school system. They don't care about the flowers. They're not asking about a pool or quiet times or, any of the stuff that person has to sell somebody into moving into an apartment for. This is a need. There's trauma, there's transition, there's a need. They get on their phone, they see our website. If it's clean, it's secure, and mom has the ability to rent this thing and check it off her list before she goes and picks up the kids from school or goes on to work or whatever that is, done. So, there isn't this whole sales pitch around it. It is a commodity-based piece of real estate. And as long as we have the technology in place and we know how to drive people to our website and our customers, that's how we'll win. And we'll beat the mom and pops in our market, or that's what we'll implement once we buy it from the mom and pops.
Yeah. So speaking of the amenities, you mentioned pool and having all these different things, school district or whatnot. What are some of the things that folks look for, when selecting a storage facility? I would imagine maybe having some real good lighting, like for nighttime, in case they have to go out there at night, or something that's fenced in or whatever. Technology, as well. What's something else that they look for?
It's it all, all the above, so they want something that is well lit. So on our website, we show pictures at night. They want that security. They want it to be fenced and a gate pad. They want to know that there's, video recording going on around the site, so that their stuff is safe and that they maybe, if they happen to go there after hours, they want their hours to be flexible. 24-hour would be great with a keypad. Larger units for commercial storage or, indoor boat and RV is great. The ability to have locks, boxes, and moving supplies. Sometimes they do need a rental truck, but those are the main ones. And then there's specialty storage that we offer as well. So records storage, and then shredding services. When they're done with their records after 7 years, after passing the HIPAA guidelines, to vending machines out on site, which is another little amenity. Wine storage, temperature and humidity cold storage for furs and art and other collectibles. That's depending upon the demographic, again, where the facility is located, will determine the types of amenities that we'll add to the facility. But the main ones, clean, well-lit, secure, access, competitive pricing, and then, some of the, very similar to the pools and apartment complexes. However, Juan, there some people may never need any of that stuff, but they see on our website that we offer it all, and they choose our site, and we'll ask them why. Well, because you have all this. Okay. Any of that? Well, nope, I just need a unit. But they want to go where the self-storage party is. And never move into an apartment. Never want to move into an apartment complex that doesn't have a pool. Do they ever use the pool? No. Maybe once a year, they'll just lay out by it. They'll never actually use it. But same thing in storage. Funny enough.
Gotcha. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's time for our nuggets of wealth. These are questions that I ask every guest every week, and hopefully they are able to help them out. So Scott, what is a good tool, source, or platform that you use almost daily that can also help others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we use project management software. So Teamwork PM is one of them. Basecamp is obviously another one. We've used that in certain instances, and even Slack. We've used that in the past. We were a little more advanced from that, but I guess the answer would be, for those of you that have multiple projects going on with multiple eyeballs and hands in those projects, having everything in one location so that you're not sending emails back and forth or constantly searching for stuff. Everybody's on the same page. They can log into the same project. Everybody has a task, that is associated to a person in a timeline. Just being able to fast track those things and keep track of it. I think one of the biggest time wasters and money losses in businesses is people just looking for stuff and lack of communication to know where things are. So everybody on the same page. So project management software is just key for us.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Okay, so what is one key advice that you would give to newer investors that are looking to get into the business, into the
Mm,
self-storage business?
mm. Yeah, well, I've been through two recessions now. We're heading into another one. We're in good shape. We're thankful for that on the storage side of the business. But when I was on the housing and apartment side, not so good. I got caught out on the first one in 1999. We were players in 2008 because we were in the storage business and buying things up. And now we're gonna take great advantage of the next one coming up. So if you don't have a plan for this recession that's coming up or that we're starting on right now, meaning when the music stops, Juan, I don't know about you, but there's a whole lot of folks that I saw when the music stopped during the last one. They were left without a chair, and the carnage was everywhere, and people didn't have a plan B. They just assumed that their first time in, real estate's always going to do well. I'm always going to make money, and I'll be able to adjust. And as Mike Tyson said once, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And you know what? A whole lot of people got punched in the face when the wool was pulled over their eyes and the rug pulled out from under them when the financing stopped in the last one. So it'll happen again. We have a recession every 7 to 10 years. Another one's coming up. And if you haven't prepared with a plan B and you don't have cash set aside to prepare for how to wind it down and a plan on how to wind it down or how to pivot during that time frame, don't be part of the carnage and have your credit ruined so that you can't do this business any longer. So for me, that is key. I don't ever want to get into a situation where I can't do this business. If I have to go work for somebody else, I'll do it to support my family, but I'm not going to be a happy camper if I can't go out and do my own thing anymore. So in summary, if you don't have a plan as to what's going to happen during a recession and what your business is going to look like and what you're going to do, you better find one or find a person that can help you to create one before you lose it all and damage your credit in the meantime. That's a double whammy that I've seen happen with literally hundreds of investors. So be prepared.
Be ready. Okay. Be ready. Have a plan. Gotcha.
Yep.
What book are you currently reading?
I've always got 4 that I'm working right now. One of them is we keep an eye on, well, kind of ties into what we were just talking about. So this is John Burns, co-authored with Chris Porter, but there you have it. Big shifts ahead. Gotcha. So there's several people that I listen to and follow, and in the news and in other places with regards to what's going to happen with the recession and just, the economy in general and with money in general in this country. So there are some big shifts that are coming and changes that are going to be happening in the world of finance that affects real estate. So that book is focused on finance and real estate. And so that's what I'm digging into right now. And so again, kind of leaning into what we had before. We're chomping at the bit. We can't wait for the recession to start. So sorry, everyone that gets damaged by that, but that's our Super Bowl. That's when we're going to shine. And so to be ready for that and look at those shifts so that you can take advantage of picking up those deals, because you know what, Juan, there's a whole lot of folks out there that bought houses and apartments and they didn't know what they were doing, and those 5-year notes come due and with a reset, they're not going to have the money. So you got to know how to be able to pick those things up and pick them off from the banks and from these investors that are going to be in trouble. Those are the folks that are going to win, that have the cash and the lending and their reputation behind them to be able to take advantage of those. So keep an eye on the shifts. For sure.
Gotcha. Big shifts ahead. And who was that book written by again? What was the author?
That is John Burns. John Burns. Okay. Authored by Chris Porter. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Where do you see yourself in your company in the next 5 years?
Let me see. More hair on my head. Myself in 5 years. Kills will all be out of the house, and so I'll be working not when I have to, but when I want to, and I'm pretty much at that place right now, and spending time with them wherever the heck they are. My wife and I will be traveling. I will have probably gone to at least 2 Monaco Grand Prix, and the business will be running on more of an autopilot than what it's on right now. So doing less of the education side and just focusing on probably bigger deals on the investment syndication side.
Gotcha. I like that. Good. At the end of your life, how do you want to be remembered?
Broke. We have a mission right now where we build houses in Mexico and we give them away. And we take our students with us, our partners, our family members, friends, neighbors, coworkers, our vendors, And we build about 4 to 6 houses a year right now, and we pay for the whole thing. We take everybody along; they don't have to pay a dime, and we introduce them to the mission field. And so the goal is as things slow down on the business side, is that we're giving away many, many more houses and building them until we get to the place where, at the end of it, I want to leave no treasures here. All my treasures are up there, and a legacy to my kids to go out and to be able to do the same, and to know that they have been set up to withstand just about everything that life throws at them, and to be able to come out on the other side of it and realizing it's just all part of it, and to be well-adjusted kiddos that they pass that on to their kids as well.
Thumbs up on that one. I like that. That's that's something that's not many people do. There's a lot of benefit to doing that for others. Helping others, and being a part of changing their lives. So that's really good. And where was this at?
So we do this down in Ensenada, Mexico, and we do it in partnership with YWAM, Youth with a Mission. So they basically interview the families, they find the job sites, and we write them the check, and we show up with a whole bunch of folks, about 25 people, to build one house. And we start with a pile of sticks and a concrete slab, and in a day and a half, it's all built, and we hand them the keys and refrigerator stocked. And then we go off and go make some more money until we can come back and do it all over again.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's kudos to you, man. That's just awesome. That's what it's all about right there. Give back whenever you when you have the ability to. That's what it's all about, for sure. So Scott, where can Commit to Wealth Nation go to contact you and find out more about you, your mentoring program, anything about you? Where can they go to contact you?
Just about everything is at at selfstorageinvesting.com. And you can find me anywhere on social media, Scott Meyers, Meyers, and you put self-storage behind that, and you'll find me, everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, and every place in between. But selfstorageinvesting.com is our site that, basically has everything that we're doing on the investment side, education side, all things self-storage, and everything about us.
Okay. Gotcha. So Scott, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Hopefully my audience has been able to learn a couple of things, from you at least, but I really do appreciate you taking the time and making this happen, and I wish you continued success.
All right. Thanks, Juan. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.